Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
How many times do you look at your week, your actual real life week, and think, I just need to be more disciplined and more organized. And if I could get my act together, I could handle all of this. And I'm asking because I feel like I'm a disciplined, regimented person Monday through Friday. I run a tight ship and I have to because I'm outnumbered by children and run a full-time practice and all the things. And I think discipline has gotten me really far. But discipline can't put me in two places at once, right?
Yep.
But before daylight savings, high school here ends at 1:30, games start at 3. My freshman had his very first varsity game. At the same time, it was Gabby's senior, like she's a senior, it was her very first game her senior year. They had to play at the same time, different locations, and I had to get my fifth grader who needed to be picked up from school at 3, you know? And I decided just to go to Gabby's game because it was right by the elementary school and Dominic's game was like 50 minutes away. I would have been late. I would have missed most of it. And it would have been so stressful the whole time. So I didn't go. And I think, well, I only have so much capacity. And instead of thinking of it as discipline, it's like I just am letting myself off the hook. And it's not because I don't care. Obviously, I care, but because there is no version of that day where discipline or better planning would put me in 3 places simultaneously. It's not a discipline problem. It's a capacity problem. And those two things require completely different responses.
I think that's a great point, Jess. I mean, that is a very difficult position. And it's weird to have to be in a position where you're like, okay, how can I really dissect what is the best decision for this particular item? Like,
Yeah.
welcome back to Chasing Brighter. I'm Kelly, and this is my sister Jessica. We are talking about one idea we think can genuinely change maybe how you understand yourself. So let's get into it. So the core part of our conversation today is, Jess, I'm sorry that you have a capacity issue, but that's what we want to talk about, right? Let's
How to clone myself about cloning.
Yes, this is about cloning. Get your test tubes and your beakers. Let's actually define what we mean by capacity, not in a productivity hacking sense, but the real finite amount of cognitive, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual bandwidth any human being has available to them. And the crucial thing is, it is not a fixed number. It changes day to day, season to season, and depending on what life is asking of you.
Yeah, capacity goes up when you're rested, supported. When life feels stable, it goes down when you're stretched across too many directions, even directions that you love going. So the problem isn't that women aren't trying hard enough. It's that we were taught to measure everything in terms of effort and willpower. And so that framework leaves zero room for us being human. So when we hit a limit, instead of saying, I've reached my capacity and that's natural and totally normal, then we say I failed. And those are not the same things at all. Like what I've been talking about is I am disciplined. I am organized. It's not the question, because no amount of discipline is going to add hours to the day or miles, right? It is not about drive because the limit is real. The question is, are you going to make yourself feel terrible about it?
Yeah. I mean, most of us were never taught to think in terms of capacity at all, right? Effort, push through it. It sounds empowering, really, until it becomes a trap. And a lot of us spend day in, day out, week in, week out in this feeling.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of ways, for us, any limitation becomes evidence that we didn't try hard enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, there's no room in that framework for just being a person with limits. Like that's like limits and boundaries are like something that is so like hard to wire into us.
Yeah. I think willpower a lot, right? Like, and I think that it's just like white knuckle it, right? We got to, white knuckle it and get through it, and I
Yeah,
think,
just a little bit more, just push a little bit
yes.
more. Yeah.
And I think high achieving women get in a very specific version of this trap. Like the more you've handled, the more you're expected to handle, and the less permission you give yourself to say, I'm full, because you did it before. So why not do it again? Right. And so capability is not the same as obligation, right? You can be capable of something and still not be obligated to do it. You know what I mean? And so, like, I was capable of going 105 miles an hour and driving to Dominic's game, but you can't push your way out of a capacity problem, right? The tank has to be refilled, not forced. And if you think about, like, if I would have made myself try to do everything, I would have been so depleted, and it wouldn't have even really, what I want to say, like, completed the objective anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, really think about how do we shift that, right?
Yeah, Kelly, I think too that it's also like your values. And so my looking at my example, my values are being present and being there to support my kids. But my value is also self-care and caring for myself and loving myself. And so I think some of it too is tapping in your values. And I think if that's landing for you, listeners, we made something to help you, right? It's a free download called Are You Living Your Values or Someone Else's? And it's a quick values clarity guide with 5 honest questions and 5 tips for actually living more aligned. It's free when you sign up for our newsletter.
And that's at chasingbrighter.com. Grab it. It's worth 5 minutes, just 5 minutes of your time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like,
So,
how do we move out of this capacity issue, Kelly?
yeah, really, kind of instead of asking, what can I do more? What if you started asking, what is asking too much of me right now? Because those two questions go in completely different directions, right?
Yeah. The first question, why can't I do more, really interrogates you. And the other interrogates the load. And only one of those leads to somewhere useful, right? When you can see the load clearly, you have options. You can redistribute it, release parts, ask for help, acknowledge it's heavy, give yourself grace. You don't need to immediately fix it. And so none of those options are available to you if you believe that the problem is that you're not strong enough, right? That belief closes off every exit. And it's like when we talked about earlier, like letting yourself off the hook, right?
Mm-hmm.
What that actually means is not lowering your standards, not caring less, but it means being honest about what one person can actually do in one day. Missing Dominic's game wasn't a failure. It was the only realistic option, you know?
Yeah. And I think, once you start asking yourself that, like, once you start asking yourself, what is wrong with you? And start asking yourself, what is too heavy right now?
Yeah.
What is that thing that really is kind of weighing on you? That's when the shift can really start. And because it's like you're working with reality of
Mm-hmm.
what's going on instead of against yourself. Like, I know I am my own worst enemy. Mom always said it. I'm very critical of myself. And so really start figuring out how to work with myself.
I want to say, and every episode, I feel like I do this, but instead of saying, I am my own worst enemy, can we
So
say a part of me, right? Like, let's pull that into a part, like, right? A part of you. It's not all of you. Okay.
thank you, Jess. I appreciate that. And I looked at my to-do list recently.
Yeah.
Let's face it, we look at our to-do list every day. And really felt completely overwhelmed. And my first instinct, because I can think of all the things I need to do, and I
Yeah.
have lists everywhere, but very on brand for me was to make a better system, right? I mean, we've done so
Yeah.
much work on the idea of like more structure, more organization. And I stopped and I realized that I don't always need necessarily a better system. I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes I need less of a system. And really for me, trying to think about the whole reframe of that, not just better organized, but even less sometimes, like giving myself some space.
Yeah. I think what that reminds me of is one of our book club episodes. I believe it was season 1 of a season 2, Kel, but like 4,000 weeks. the book 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mere Mortals by Oliver Burkeman. And it's like, we need less in the system, right? And so he talks about if we have, the average American lives to the age of 80, which is 4,000 weeks in our life. And it's like, all of these time management organizational experts are like, okay, you do this, then you do this, then you do this. And it's like, are people talking about, how about you just take that out? Don't do that anymore. Stop doing that, And so it's like I said, one of my many themes for 2026 is just opting out, right? So how do you just like opt out of some things, and is it not going to a practice? Is it not doing this, and so what are some things that you can do? And so for me, I don't try to go to all the games for a while. I think that started last year. For a while, like if they had a game really early in the morning and the tournament schedule was such that I wouldn't be able to sleep in one day in that week, I would either go late to the game or not go to that first early game,
Well,
So
and your
whatever.
value is getting rest,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
everyone has sort of different values, different priorities.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's something to think about, as we kind of talk about capacity,
Yeah.
right? Is how do
yeah.
you prioritize those things?
Totally. And so it's like, listeners, let's look at one small doable thing from today. Kelly, what do you think you can do?
For me, it's a capacity check-in, like once a day, whether it's, morning, midday, evening, and just ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, where is my capacity right now? And just don't even judge the number. Just, again, this is about, don't try to fix it, just notice it. We want to start building this awareness. It goes back to the naming it of our
Yeah.
previous episode. So it's like, you really can't start to do any work if you can't see it. And when I say work, it's really about like, we want to feel better and we want to not have more weight. We want to lighten the load.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that brings it to of this episode, which is a language swap. I talk a lot about the story that you tell yourself creates your reality. Words are really powerful. So it's deceptively simple, but it makes a big impact. So this week, every time you catch yourself saying, I should be able to handle this, I should be able to do this, try replacing it with just, this is a lot. No comparison, no justification. Just let it be a lot. That's it. That's it. It's the move. Before we go to Kelly and I this month, we put together a free download to go alongside everything we've been talking about. It's called Are You Living Your Values or Someone Else's? And it's a values clarity guide. 5 questions help you figure out what you actually value versus what you're performing. And then 5 real tips for starting to live more aligned.
And listeners, again, this is not something that you want to just get and let it sit unread in your inbox. Really, it's 5 minutes. That's it. And it's really the kind of questions that really stick with you.
Yeah, we made it because this is work we're both doing. And if April's been hitting home for you, this is the next step. It's completely free. Just sign up for the newsletter.
It's at chasingbrighter.com. Go grab it.
And next week, we're going somewhere that I think is going to feel uncomfortably familiar. We're talking about the work that never makes it onto any job description, the invisible labor that runs quietly in the background of so many women's lives and what it's actually costing beyond just time and energy.
Yeah, it's one of those episodes you might want to share with a specific person in your life. So just planting that seed. Thanks for being here today. You can find us on our socials at Chasing Brighter.
Take care of yourselves between now and next week. Have a good one.